good morning. Welcome back to Sitting with Ashley. I'm Ashley. This is a collective coffee. We're just really gonna quick do a world events. Oh my god. Yesterday, India officially started bombing Pakistan and Kashmir. And if you want more information, I share a lot of stuff in my stories on Instagram. My Instagram is Ascending with Ashley as well. But someone who is from there, from Kashmir, was talking about how Kashmir is very much like Palestine, and was making these parallels between Modi, I think is the Indian president or dictator or whatever, and Netanyahu are like butt buddies, really good friends, okay? So I just want you to understand that they were bombing Muslims and mosques, but they were saying that they were bombing terrorists. So again, I want you, if you've never watched V for Vendetta, please go watch it, because you're gonna understand the rhetoric. Rhetoric is language used by political and social entities to gain compliance and support from the masses. Rhetoric. Rhetoric and propaganda are both used in that same way. Propaganda is a false reality campaigning against a chosen desired outcome. Okay, so when the media puts out rhetoric and propaganda about certain groups of people being, the terrorist is the word they use. That's the word that was dubbed back in, Bush times. But V for Vendetta, the movie, does an incredible job of just making it accessible, because it gives you this backdoor look at how the powers that be scramble when their narrative is in any sort of danger. Now, the interesting thing I think about this, without knowing anything political about India and Kashmir and Pakistan, is that India is part of BRICS. So BRICS is the currency, the larger versus the West. So BRICS is Brazil, Russia, India, China, South America, and there was some other country that added into this. But that has become, they're creating their own currency called BRICS. So they are decentering the US dollar. Why does that matter for Americans? Because the value of the dollar, when BRICS gets centralized, which I feel like we're in that space now with the tariffs and with China pulling back. Also, there was a military parade in Russia in which China marched. So there's certain alliances that are happening, and I think that's why it's important to keep your eyes on this, because as US, the time has come. Now, the thing that's interesting about this, though, is that I still believe this is very much government versus citizens at a global scale. So with Trump having a pretty valid relationship with Russia, Putin, he already kind of let Ukraine know, like, no, we're not doing that anymore. So he's in with Netanyahu and Putin. I just think it's interesting and important to watch how all of these interpersonal relationships amongst the global dictators is and plays out. So we have Modi from India, we have Putin from Russia, we have Netanyahu from Israel, we have Trump from US, and we have the dude from El Salvador. I don't remember his name, but he's definitely on board with this stuff as well. El Salvador isn't as big of a country, but in regards to imprisonment, it's something that Americans need to be paying attention to. Brazil is kind of on the back burner. I haven't seen any information coming out of Brazil in regards to globals. Just because I haven't seen it doesn't mean it's not happening, or it just hasn't appeared on my FYPs. There's been more massacres in Gaza today, like always. Here's a photo. This is a family, a mother, a husband, and a child that got shot point blank in the head. strikes on children and civilians in a busy marketplace. They're taking the ancient trees out of the Amazon forest. Have you guys ever seen Fern Gully? Go watch Fern Gully. I'm pretty sure it's free on YouTube. Fern Gully was a movie made back in the 80s about the deforestation and the extraction of oil and trees and natural resources. It's a kid's movie though. It follows Christina, a fairy. I'm pretty sure her name is Christina. But I would watch Fern Gully and V for Vendetta if you'd like to. Cobalt from the Congo, an environmental and human rights crisis. Mass executions are taking place in Gaza. In central Gaza, Israel ordered people in the... Oh yeah, I read about this yesterday. In the Barij refugee camp to evacuate an area near the mosque and go to the school for their own safety because they wanted to bomb the mosque, and then they bombed the school. So they did that yesterday. I hate how everything has been normalized. I hate how I'm being so nonchalant. But I honestly have to do a little bit of disconnection in order to report it. What India is doing is terrorism. Cutting off water to over 240 million people is terrorism. Bombing civilians is terrorism. India deserves better than to walk down the same genocidal path as Israel. Indians, you need to stand up against Modi's fascist regime before your country loses its soul. You are better than this. And that's what's so sad, is just... it's... the majority of the people on this planet do not want this. I think that's the most important thing to remember. Even if you're distracted, even if you're not paying attention, this is still not stuff that you want. And I think that paying attention to what they're doing in all of these other places, the ways in which warfare is being carried out, is really important, especially for Americans. You know, Trump has isolated the US. I'm not excited about other presidents. You know, I know that they've all been scum. I'm pretty sure they're all in the same bloodline. And I also know that there's a whole bunch of motherfuckers behind the president making these decisions, because this president is not smart enough to do that himself. I don't think any of them are. I don't think you can really be smart and be in that position. I think they put on a front, right? Like Bush was completely, the second Bush, was completely ruled by Karl Rove and other, you know, strategists. And, you know, I'm so distracted by these goddamn commercials. I don't have my remote. Let me just keep playing. Give me a second. Shut the fuck up. Oh, now that I got up, you want to change it? Where's the remote? I don't know where the remote is. Anyway, I think it's important to pay attention to the tactics used, so that when they start happening where you are, because I mean, if no one stood up against this shit, then we're all going to be affected by it at one point in time. It doesn't matter where you are in the world. This is a world domination, right? I also saw this guy on TikTok yesterday talking about what's happening in Honduras, and how there's like these billionaires are creating like these cities, and apparently they can do so, and then they can there's certain legislation written, of course, because they write it, that they can go beyond or behind government, so they can be their own sovereign thing, and they're creating this whole technocratic island in Honduras. So I don't know if you're interested in that, or if that sounds like something you want to pay attention to. Where is the remote? I would do that. But other than that, I'm gonna get to my shorts. I have something to do today, so I'll be back later this afternoon with a reading, maybe, if I feel like it. If not, we'll just do shorts today, and I will be back tomorrow. Have a good one.